Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Today is the first, and hopefully, if it goes well, a series of shows known as the Gambling Movie Club. I'd do a book club, but as many people know, I can't read. So that's really tough for me because not a lot of these books are available in audio version. So it's just easier to watch the movie, as most people do for book club anyway. They just watch the movie version of it because they don't want to spend the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours it takes to actually sit down, learn to read, then read the book. So movies seem to work out well for all of us, especially when it's available free on YouTube. I'll be dropping that link into the description if you can't find it on any sort of streaming service. I put it out there in the newsletter, which you can subscribe to in the comments section, and out on Twitter and all the social medias that we would be talking about the Canadian 2003 movie Owning Mahowny, which a lot of people just said, I've never heard of this movie, but it stars Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I wanted to launch it with a movie that I thought was pretty, I don't want to say relatable based on what happens, but what the guy goes through throughout the course of the movie. I think we can see a little bit of ourselves. Anyone who's bet on anything can see themselves in Dan Mahowny. Just a little bit, I think. So joining me to talk through the movie, two guys that had never seen the movie before. One, regular to the show, Davis Mattek. What's going on?
Not a lot going on. A very relatable movie, right? You don't want to say relatable because Dan Mahowny is a sick loser, but it's a relatable movie. And I was thinking, in doing preparations for this podcast, amongst all of us, I probably am the sickest of the three of us on here, like the sickest gambler. Maybe Pat, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're more sick, but I definitely think of the three of us, I gotta be the sickest.
I feel like I was the sickest about 15 years ago when I went through my Mahowny stage, when I was just collecting paychecks at my job after I was in college, and then I was working a job to fund me going to the casino and lose all my money at blackjack and baccarat. And then I just have no money for 2 weeks until I got paid again. Fortunately, I wasn't allowed to have credit cards at the time. Good move. They would not approve me. Smart on their part. First timer to the Pat Mayo Experience. Somehow, I don't know how this has actually never happened. Peter Overzet. What's going on?
Hey, I am excited. Yeah, I had people saying, like, have you ever done a show with Pat? And I know Pete Manzanelli, my alter ego, and you got together back in football season. But yeah, excited to be here.
So let's start with you. You hadn't seen this. Was this, when I said that this is the movie that we were watching, did you look into what this movie was about, or did you just watch it?
Yeah, well, I felt like a fraud because I'm a Philip Seymour Hoffman fan. I mean, a lot of people are, and obviously a gambling fan. I was like, how was this movie not on my radar? And yeah, so I was excited to watch it. And I'm actually not even, this feels like such a weird take. I'm not a movie guy. I feel like all movies are too long. And when I saw this one came in at a crisp hour 45, I was like, all right, this checks all the boxes for me. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Davis, what was your main takeaway besides like the first 5 minutes when they really dialed up the Canadian accents?
My main takeaway, I mean, honestly, like I was, just thinking about this movie today. I thought the weirdest thing was that he wanted ribs with no sauce. That being the thing of there are many sad things about this, but the fact that he used his comp points, the fact that, these people would literally do anything to keep him in the casino. I thought it was so fucking sad that he was like, I want ribs, no sauce, and a Coke. Because I'm thinking as myself, if I'm in a casino and I'm stuck, a bunch of money, I'm using this to regenerate as much action as possible. I'm ordering food to the table. Like I'm getting lobster tails sent to the table when I'm stuck. Like I'm not going ribs, no sauce. Like I'm down to get these comps.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't even bring it out to him while he was at the table. They had to keep him playing because he was in the middle of a gigantic cold streak. The first thing that popped into my mind with ribs, no sauce, and a Coke was, this sounds like something Andrew Cuss would order at a casino.
Big time.
Well, I think it was probably a very, I know it's based on a true story. I don't know if that was actually the real life Maloney's preferred dish, but I think it illustrated what a sickness he had. Because I think we're all like Davis, right? Like if we're putting down that money, we want the benefits. We want to really luxuriate in that. But he literally just had a degenerate gambling sickness where I think there was a quote where it's like, he just wanted to win money, so he had more to lose. And it's just like anything else was a distraction from that. Anything else was just pulling him away from feeding that addiction, which is actually what made it so depressing.
Yeah, this is not an uplifting movie. That's why I wanted to start with this one, because most gambling movies that you see, there's always like, you have a movie like 21 or something where there's like, they go to the back room of the casino and they kind of get you, but it usually ends up like happy for the people. They end up winning, or, I mean, there's a few of them that don't end up doing that. But I feel like there are very few gambling movies that highlight the addiction of gambling. 1-800-GAMBLER, I think it is. If you have a problem with this, and I think that you see yourself a little bit in this, and how if you really went down this path, Davis, that this, I wouldn't say that this could be you, that you're stealing money outside of a fake bank account to go to. The best part is like he kept going to Atlantic City instead of Vegas. That just cracked. That just really illustrates the type of problem that you have.
Yeah.
Although it's very close to Toronto, it's like an hour.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of us. If you're listening to this show, come on, we've all felt stuck. Like, let's be honest. You've been at the poker table, you've been at the craps table, you've been playing whatever. You're on like a 9-week losing streak at NFL DFS. You're just begging your dudes to make the cut. The moment that I felt was most relatable was when he bet on the North Carolina game. He bet on that, +2, right? And they won by, or -2, and they won by 1. We've all had that moment where we're sweating golf, football, whatever it is, you're sweating a game, you're with probably your significant other's family, and the game is on, and I mean, there's generally like a jackass brother-in-law or something who's like watching the game and has sports opinions, and you're there and you're sweating it, and you have some amount of money on the outcome. It doesn't go your way. I mean, we've literally all been there. Like that was, I think, the most relatable moment for me.
When we watch it, Paul came in. So Paul, that was exactly the scene that you pointed to. You're like, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I was there on the previous Friday. There was a Bellator card. I had a whole bunch of chalk parlays. I'm living at home before our move here. And Goiti Yamauchi got robbed. And I'm watching on my computer. My mom's there. She just she sees me completely freak out, has no idea what I'm losing my mind about. I go out for a tilt sig. It wasn't good. And then I watched that movie like the next day. And I was just like, that's me. That's me right there. How sad is that?
You're not stealing money from me, are you, to put down these bets?
No, not yet.
Not yet. It has to be a pretty dire scene. Pete, was there a part of Mahowny that was relatable to you whatsoever?
Well, it was funny because I was just about to say something that was entirely not relatable to me. And that was like, a lot of times I don't play slates if I don't get any sweat equity out of it, or I won't make a bet. Like, I want to be able to watch. I want to get the sweat entertainment value out of it. And, he's making these bets where he'd be like literally every underdog, or take all of the AFC teams to win, or, whatever, just like very blanket bets. And it's like, how are you even getting any sweat equity out of this? And that was the part I just could not relate to.
Yeah, well, you brought up the key quote I had written down was when the pit boss just tells his crony, you know why he wants to win? So he has enough money to lose. I felt like that was the most relatable thing to me in this entire thing, because honestly, I'm not gambling to be a professional gambler. I'm just gambling for the thrill of it, and I just want to have enough money that I can bet it. And I just don't want to go in the hole here. I want to win a whole bunch so I can just bleed it all back. Isn't that what basically I assume that all of us, everyone who's watching, maybe not you, Davis, you're like a pro, aren't you? But most people watching, that's what they're gambling for.
I mean, I play to make money, but once I'm stuck, when you're like, if you're on a big downswing over 6 months or whatever of the year, you'd very much like to get back to the point. Although, there are tertiary benefits from a losing year of like being able to or if you lose on DraftKings, you can write off other stuff. But I do totally get what you're saying, which is a vast majority of people who are playing daily fantasy are doing it for fun. Like they it's fun for them. It's a good sweat, and the wins are nice, and making hitting $20,000, $40,000. Like, that's amazing. That's incredible. That's good, life-changing money for 98% of people probably who play. But in general, you just don't want to have to deposit. Like, the goal of the game is to not have to deposit more on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's the same thing at the sports book too. It's just like, yeah, if I have enough money, if I have money in my account, I'm just like, all right, I'm good here. I don't need to deposit. This is fantastic. I keep making bets until all the money is gone. I feel like that's pretty linear throughout most people likely watching the show, especially if they're following my picks. I mean, they're probably depositing from time after time. But I mean, Pete, you're the deposit king. At least you were the deposit king.
Actually, very coincidentally, I am wearing my Deposit King shirt right now. So yes.
Did you find, were the Canadian accents at the beginning like super noticeable? Because I mean, I'm Canadian. I live in Toronto. I don't hear these accents anywhere. They sounded like they were in the movie Fargo.
See, that's actually really funny because I did notice them, but they kind of fulfilled kind of the Canadian stereotype I like, but not in a way that was like a caricature. So, but I imagine that if I lived there and experienced it, it might seem a little more phony.
Well, it's strange because it's the more you go outside of any of the cities that you would get an accent that sounds more like that. And it would be like, I don't know. Pete, where are you at? You're in the Northeast, right?
I'm in Boston, but originally from Colorado.
Okay, so in Boston, like you have your people with like the Boston accents, but if like maybe Boston doesn't work because that's very specific to Boston. I'm just trying to think like.
No, my in-laws have like pretty thick Boston accents, and my wife doesn't have one at all.
And she's from Boston?
Yeah. But, it's like one of those things where I guess I don't understand the mechanics of how that worked, how she didn't end up with it while her parents do. But it's exaggerated more in certain areas than others.
Yeah, it's like when I meet people from the South, if they're from a major metropolitan area, they have like a slight twang of the Southern accent. But I feel like if you get like 50 miles outside of any city, it's like the Southern accent that you have in your mind. Like, Davis, you're what, in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Is there like a Missouri accent?
So you get the people from the hills out here who say Missouri. They like, oh, like they use very long vowel sounds, like their A's get real long and drawn out. Our governor, actually, our giant dipshit of a governor, sounds like a caricature of a hillbilly distilling moonshine from like the 1920s. It's unbelievable that this man holds elected office, but people do actually sound like that. Like if I was to go get in my car, drive an hour west to some hillbilly town, and I went into a gas station to go get something, someone would talk completely different than me.
But the people in St. Louis don't have that accent.
There's like a very small regional accent you get with people in the Midwest in general, where if they don't have the country affectation, there are some things we say that sound that you would hear that Pete would hear. But, people from the Midwest become like broadcasters and stuff because we just have our accent is very plain. It's really not noticeable at all.
In the movie, the John Hurt, who's the casino, I guess he's the GM of the casino. He's not a pit boss. Like
unclear. Yeah.
I was kind of just, he runs the casino, and I did enjoy that there was the part where the people in the security room were like cheering him on at the end and then being like, oh no, it's happening. But is there really a rivalry between Atlantic City and Vegas, or is that like a one-sided rivalry? Pete, you said you're in the Boston area. It's like before Boston had won a World Series, like the Yankees are our biggest rivals. Like, yeah, but you guys haven't won anything. It's not really a rivalry.
Yeah, I don't know where that was happening. That was like a manufactured storyline. I did think John Hurt's character though was probably one of the best characters in the movie.
So good.
Well, there are very few characters in the movie overall. There's probably like 6, because you have that Canadian federal agent who he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, he looked like, who did he looked like the
he looked like it's Timothy Oliphant, I think.
Okay,
no.
Yeah. Who did he look like?
He looks like Dime Store Brad Pitt a little bit.
In Fight Club, right?
Yeah. Or Oceans when his hair is spiky.
Yeah. I think that might have been what I was thinking of.
What is that guy's name? I did enjoy seeing Maury Chalkin as like the local bookie that he had. Like that guy just Is there any?
Frank Perland, I thought he was great too.
Yeah, is there any other role that actor could play?
I mean, he's like John Candy's understudy. That's the only other thing he would be eligible for. But like, yeah, like he could have shown up in Rounders, and I would have been like, yeah, that makes him, about as much sense.
Yeah, he looks like the father of the guy in Rounders who kept trying to collect the money from Worm and then hooked up with KGB.
Yes.
Yeah, he looks kind of like Andre the Giant in The Princess Bride, like that kind of vibe.
He seems so nice, though. Maybe that's what. I mean, I don't know very many Canadian bookies, but I guess I have to talk to Cam about that. Maybe Feinberg would end up knowing. Cam deals with these people exclusively because he's not allowed to have credit cards. So this is where he has to go make his wagers. Johnny Knuckles, you got to collect from Johnny Knuckles. You don't want to go see that guy every Monday.
It was funny because, they did seem like they had the Johnny Knuckles vibe, and then they just actually pitied him and were trying not to take his action and stuff, which made it even more sad.
It's a weird... I guess this almost works with any sort of addiction where, like, the compulsive nature of it, that you just don't see it manifest this way in a movie all that often. Like, it's someone walks in with the very last scene or the very last time he goes to the casino and he's up like $10 million or whatever it is, then bleeds it all away. And then he's the sad guy making the $50 bets at the end of the night on the blackjack table. I've never won that much money, obviously, but like in a night when I didn't have much money going in, and then I would win a whole bunch. So if I went in with like $200 and I got up to like 2,500, there was always, the part where they're shutting down the tables and I'm sitting there playing like a $5 hand of blackjack, just thinking to myself, like, okay, just one hand, I'll get it going again and I'll rebuild it. I don't know what happened to the rest of the money. I went on a cold streak. It's time to rerun the hot streak. Like, I felt that so much. It was real. I looked at myself and like, this is fucking pathetic. I'm glad you don't do this anymore. But I can see where he's coming from with that, and I think that people will see themselves in that. And that's the part of this movie that I feel like other movies don't show. It's like, oh, I lost it all on one big hand, now I'm broke. But that's not how this happens.
Yeah. Did you guys think it maybe swung, though, too far in the other direction, where I felt like there were not enough scenes where he was actually winning, kind of fueling that, tasting the gambler's high and chasing it? It just felt like so many of the scenes were just like losing after losing after losing.
Yeah, I guess that's a really good point, because you always have that like montage in any sort of gambling movie. When the times are good, the money's rolling in, people are high-fiving at the table. We had the one run of that. Was it when he was playing craps, when he snuck out of the Vegas hotel? You had that, and then his like hot run before he ended up losing it all. Those were really the only, and that's probably a total like 3.5 minutes in the movie.
Yeah, it just, I guess that's what is so hard about that, is there's so many aspects that you don't relate to, as far as the reason when you go and you want to go back to the ATM, it's because you've experienced the highs of winning. You think that you can get back there, but so many of those scenes, especially at the end when he's, playing those three monster blackjack hands, and it's just loss, loss, loss. It's like no false hope anywhere, just like a slow descent into losing every cent he has.
Well, he should have stopped playing Baccarat, because he was just dealing himself fire and dealing the dealer nothing. He was dealing the dealer like, Baccarat. He was dealing himself natural nines, and he was all good to go. Davis, you ever played Baccarat at a casino?
So I gotta come very clean here. I'm not a nit, but I know enough about gambling to know that you just should not play games like that. You shouldn't play craps.
No,
you shouldn't play blackjack. You shouldn't play Baccarat.
You should play craps, and you should play Baccarat. Craps, if you know how to play it, is one of the games that you can kind of tilt to your advantage a little bit. And Baccarat is probably the closest thing to a 50-50 game in your favor you're going to find. Those are the two.
Well,
yeah. Davis, I know you don't drink much, but getting tipsy at a casino and just punting off a few $100s playing blackjack or roulette. I mean, you got to experience that.
So I've played blackjack at the casino before. I've actually played in Vegas with some of the DK guys, and but kids don't know this. Back in the day, they used to be able to have live finals in Las Vegas. That was a long time ago. But in casinos, I just play poker because that's a game where you're competing against the people who are there tipsy, just having a good time by and large, especially when you're playing 1-2 or 2-5 or whatever. And that's a beatable game. The house gets their cut either way. So the sitting there at the end of the night playing $5 hands of blackjack, I cannot relate because I don't really I have very limited experience with table games.
Well, did you know? Like, is there no casinos around where you grew up or went to college?
No, there was a casino. We used to go play. There was about 45 minutes away from where we went to college. There was a Native American reservation casino, but we would go there on Sunday afternoons. They would do a $50 buy-in, no limit hold'em tournament, and we would go and play in that on Sundays.
Pete, was there many casinos where you were?
Yeah, we had casinos in Colorado that were 18 and up, so we were able to do some of those. But I think the other thing too that I've just been thinking about with the movie is, and like when we all grew up playing poker, all of that stuff, is we like the idea of having an edge, or at least thinking we have an edge. Even with blackjack, we all fancy ourselves as like amateur card counters. Like, I'm going to try to keep a track of the deck and see if we have a bunch of face cards and now I need to pull my bets back or whatever. It seemed like he had, despite being a banker, despite working with numbers, had like zero inclination to try to find edges and push them. He was just like a blanket degenerate, like might as well have just been playing the lottery. That was so weird to me. He had no interest in trying to get it in good.
And in his his real job as a banker, he seemed to be quite good at that job in knowing numbers and seeking advantages out, which was just so strange.
Yeah. It just like he was smart enough to pull off the embezzling, which requires a level of competence, with getting away with that. And yet just calling up and saying, put him on all of the, underdogs on this slate.
All the home teams in the National League, all the away teams in the American League. Yeah. I mean, that was strange. I feel like that can't be based on reality. Like, I feel like there's no way that the actual Mahowny, I feel like he would have been like, bro, I got a system. I know what I'm doing. And he did mention one thing about that when I don't remember the name of his buddy, but the first time they go to Atlantic City, they get comped a room and he tells his buddy, oh yeah, I'm working on a new system. Here's the $40,000. Don't give this back to me no matter what. He mentions the system as a sick, disgusting gambler. I would have been very curious to know what the Mahowny super system was. Like, that would have been an interesting wrinkle.
That is the primo person is going to lose all your money. I've been victim to that too. Like, when you're at the table and then you section off the part of money, it's like, wow, those are my winnings. I won't touch those. Or you do give them like $200 to someone else. Be like, yeah, don't give that back to me. That's what I cashed in with. I have 500 in front of me. I'm not going to need that. I want to make sure that even if I do lose this, I will walk out of here and break even. And then you're always just begging the person to give you the money back. It never ends up working.
Yeah, that was actually one of the more relatable scenes. I feel like I've done a version of that scene with my wife, where it's like, take these chips here. We're going to cash those out. And an hour later, you're like, babe, just give me those chips. We need those chips.
Yeah, we need to get back in the game here. Breaking news. This is an important PSA brought to you by Manscaped.com. This is your pubic service announcement. For the news you've all been waiting for, the Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is now available for purchase in both the United States and in Canada. This new trimmer was just released only moments ago, and we are one of the first to get our hands on it and share the news to you out there. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer to you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code 20MAYO at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0, and I'm blown away by the performance. The craftsmanship and details on the 4.0 are next level. Their enhanced ceramic blade and skin-safe technology is so good that it almost seems as if Manscaped worked with Elon Musk's engineers to ensure your testes are as safe as possible. Now, you can use like a straight razor down there on those testes, but what you really want to do is use the Manscaped trimmer to make sure that there's no nicking action that goes on, because there's a new multifunctional on-off switch that can engage a travel lock created for people who like to travel. The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize trim all over through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. And looks-wise, it's sleek with a two-tone matte and gloss finish, even features a hot foil stamped black chrome Manscaped logo. Show that mower off loud and proud. The optimized Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof, so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. And did I mention wireless charging? The Lawnmower 4.0's new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length and last longer. It's probably the only thing lasting longer down there. Am I right? If you're still trimming with your face with a ball trimmer, it's time to get some changes. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code 20MAYO at manscaped.com. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth, and balls will thank you for it. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code 20MAYO at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code 20MAYO. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
They're like it was funny when he was eating the ribs in the stairwell with the I guess the guy was a janitor. Bernie the janitor before he became Bernie.
I think he was
the
a cook.
concierge later. Yeah.
He got fired twice. Poor guy. Especially after he followed him down to the Jersey boardwalk while he was like kicking the ocean. And that was just sad times. But the meal at the end of the night, we always had a thing. Because it's funny, because if I go and play blackjack now, I like playing blackjack because it's just action, action, action.
Yeah.
But it's more of a communal thing. Like, I don't want to go play blackjack by myself. I would rather go with like two of my buddies and we'll just go spend 2 hours playing blackjack. If we win, we win. We lose, whatever. It's just something to go do. That's why I don't like going to the casino to play poker anymore, Davis. I'm not there to like make a living playing poker, or like back when, because there was a casino like downtown in the city that I grew up. So during college, I would go down usually on Saturday nights sober, wait for the drunk people to stumble into the poker room and just take unless they ended up sucking out on you. But it was a great way to, make $200-300 in the course of an hour and then walk out and probably lose it all back playing like 3-card poker or something stupid like that. But the move for us at the end of the night would be whoever lost the most got treated by the guy who lost the least on the way back home, because we had to go over the bridge and there was this like solo 24-hour McDonald's that was in between the casino and where we lived, that whoever lost the least had to treat everyone to McDonald's in our sadness meal at like 3:00 in the morning. So I really felt the ribs eating at the end of the night when you lose all your money. It's like, okay, it's a bit of a pick-me-up.
That's very similar to my college buddies. We normally would go out, save for the COVID year, do a trip from San Diego out to Vegas, road trip out for divisional round weekend of the NFL. And there's an Arby's in Barstow halfway. And just no matter what, we'd have to stop there. And I don't even like Arby's, but it's become such a tradition that I associate Arby's with soaking up gambling losses at this point.
Davis,
I don't have the same thing, man, because
you've done all your betting online. I guess all this culture is gone.
Yeah, I've probably been to a casino, I want to say in person, I'll say 35 times-ish in my life. Actually, you know what? Just as we're talking about this right now, I do remember an experience that I've had with table games. So in Kansas City, we have casinos that are just on the edge of town, and the MLS team that plays in Kansas City plays right next door, like a 5-minute drive away from the casinos. And a couple times after we'd be out going to go watch Sporting Kansas City play, we'd go to the casino afterward, and none of my friends now have any interest in poker, so they would only want to go play table games, and we would play roulette. So I actually do know now the feeling of leaving a casino that, having got your money out of the ATM and literally leaving with no money and no chips. Now that was a latent memory that just came back to me as a result of doing this show.
Do you think that you're the type of person like him when they asked him about like not betting? He's like, what am I going to do? Go to the racetrack and watch?
Yes. That's me.
Do you guys play like, so obviously his huge thing was the lengths he would go to fuel this, like literally embezzling money from his company. Do you guys have mind games that you play with yourself of like, okay, this is my budget that I'm willing to lose? Like if I go, cause that's what I do. Like, I'll be like, okay, I have $1,000 and I'm not going below this. And I'm pretty good at not going beyond that. Clearly he just rams right through the speed bumps and just keeps going. How do you guys keep yourself from gambling and not having it turn into a life ruining exploit?
So
I don't deposit.
That's probably pretty good, pretty smart. You can prevent yourself from doing that.
This question's for Pat. For
Yeah.
us normal people.
Yeah, I actually had two separate bank accounts. I made because I was unable to do that because whatever was in my bank account would be like, well, that's live money. Like, that money can go on the table. So I made when I was, because casinos here you have to be 19. Actually in Quebec you have to be 18, but in all of Canada you need to be 19. So I made two separate bank accounts for myself, and I would transfer money, and this is before I could do it just from my phone, which would be an absolute disaster now. This is probably back in like 2004, that I would just put a certain amount of money in that account before I went to the casino. Like, that's what I can lose, and just didn't bring my other card with me. So if it was to the point where I lost all that money and I wanted to reinvest, I would have to go home, get the other card, come back, and just, once you leave, you're not coming back. That's the one. That's why they trap you in there, because people they come to their senses the moment they walk outside of the door. That's why they always try to keep you in there. But when
you get some fresh air.
Yeah. And but once you're in there and you're trapped in there, like it hasn't been a problem for ages, but it was a problem for me for a while when I first started going. Especially, I think that there is a rule that every time a person goes to the casino, they win their first time. And when they win the first time that they go, the best thing that could ever happen to anyone would be to walk into a casino the first time and lose all your money instantly. Then you would just have no reason to ever go back. But it seems like no matter who you are, you walk into a casino for the first time and you'll win some sort of money. And you're like, this is easy. I'll do this every time.
It's like the TikTok algorithm, which clearly gives your first video posted on there a viewing boost, and then everyone is addicted. They're like, holy cow, my first video got 3,000 views. I will stay cranking out content on this platform.
I did not know is that a real thing?
Yeah. Go look through people's first posts on TikTok. Big boost.
That is fucking genius.
It's so smart.
So smart. It's either they're applying the casino methods to the rest of social media. That's what all this is turning into at this point.
Casino methods, I mean, people like smartphone app developers and everything, they have hired people from casinos. Like it's like a well-known thing that like Google and Apple have contacted people who run casinos and everything because they're trying to gamify and get that dopamine flowing on your phone.
It's funny because I don't get the same rush from betting on an app or playing on DraftKings as I did when I would be at the table at that time. Like, I found it was far more, what was it? I don't have a gambling problem. I have a financial problem. When I had a financial problem, it was me being there in person and going back to the ATM or borrowing money from a friend to keep going that night. But that's never been the case for me online. I don't know why. Like, there's something about being in person for me that was like a real rush. And maybe it's because I was fucking 20 years old. Now that I'm in my 30s, I don't care as much.
Well, there's also an element for me. I'm the same. I consider myself, a social gambler. In the spots where I've overextended myself is because of not like direct peer pressure, but indirect peer pressure, trying to keep up with people who have net worth, 20 times mine, who are splashing around. And you're like, oh, I want to hang with the fellas and be making the same bets. You're like, whoa. I don't have this amount of money to throw around like you do. And those are the times I've made bad decisions because of peer pressure.
Same for me, Pete. So do you guys play credit card roulette? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, do you?
Yeah.
So I was at a dinner in Vegas. I am, I think, 22 years old, maybe 21. I was still in college and I was out there for a live final at a dinner with, back then they were the DK pros and a bunch of the associated hanger-oners, probably 15 of us, and we go play credit card roulette. And I was like, you know what? We're here. It's the boys. We're doing it. And it got down to me and Dinkmeyer. Probably, I want to say like a $5,000 dinner, maybe more, maybe less. I don't remember the exact amount, but it would have been enough to have punished me at 21 years old. And I just remember sweating bullets, just being like, Dink, you got to do it the one time. And when they pulled my card second to last, like I had never been so thankful in my life.
Was that the best sweat? Was that the best sweat you've ever had?
No, I've had sweats for more, but it's the most memorable one because of what you guys are saying, because it's social. It's not, me sitting watching a Dodgers game at 2:00 in the morning in my room.
Yeah. Do you, you know who's the worst with this stuff is the
Peter.
mayor, Pete Jennings, because
Yeah,
like he'll be
100%.
like, I'll just be trying to have like a fun night doing a stream, and it'll be like, you want to play Laden Thinks, and like next thing you know, I owe $1,400. Just I was like, whoa,
you can't. It's too much. It's too much with him. He is the worst. I've had that. Went golfing with him and seeing the same thing. It's just he's too much. Pete is way too much.
He's sick. He's very sick.
Well, when you have unlimited funds, you can do whatever you want. That's why people want to make all the money. I think what you're talking about, like the outside pressure, and especially like forcing people into really bad situations. I mean, no one's forcing them to do it. They put that on themselves. Like in our industry in particular, like there are definitely different levels of people who have different bankrolls. And I've mainly avoided this just because the only time I've ever really tried to like up my stakes and like be a real big player, just immediately just lost right away. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is really stupid. This is not my lane. I can't afford to be doing this. But I bet you there's a bunch of people out there who create content or talk about gambling or talk about daily fantasy that want to put on the air that they're big time high rollers. Or they feel the pressure to be able to show off, oh, here's my $2,000 bet, like that kind of thing. Dude. I bet you it's broken a bunch of people that we just don't even hear about.
For sure it's broken people, because if you run bad at that for like 3 weeks, you can like dust off like 5 years of hard work. No doubt. And I mean, it's not people. It's because you got to understand the Kelly criterion, right? Where if you are just risking, so you have such a high risk of ruin if you don't understand the value prop. And I think, Pat, what you're saying too also is there's lots of people who don't understand the value proposition that they're entering, and they're like, oh, I have $15,000 in my DraftKings account, so I can 150 enter the Millie Maker. I can afford to enter it like 6 times, no problem. Like without understanding how often you actually get wrecked on those entries.
Do you think that exists, Pete? Yeah.
No, for sure. And I think I was trying to think what is different of it from the casino stuff where, Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is just feeding his gambling addiction. People in our industry can write it off as a marketing expense. If I bink the Millie Maker, or I hit this big parlay, or show this big, bomb ticket, like you can say, oh, I'm going to get all these followers or all these subs, which tricks you into probably making even more negative EV moves over the long run.
Yeah, I am completely guilty of that. Trying to go for a big score, being like, oh, if I hit this is going to lead to X, Y, and Z, and that equals profit, and it just never does.
Yeah. You have to do some real, more intense back of the math calculations to know, okay, am I actually plus EV? It was like me going for the crypto punk in the golf stuff. I'm awful at PGA DFS, and yet there was this crypto punk, a top heavy prize pool, and I wrote it off as a bid expense. I was like, if I even have a sweat for this, I will more than pay off my handful of entries in this contest.
Well, I mean, Davis, was it Tommy who started doing this? Like, it felt like a lot of that, because that worked so well for him, these big dollar screenshots, and the way that Tommy was able to sell off of that he was really the first person I remember doing that.
I mean, the first person I remember doing a screenshot was, I think, Dinkmeyer after he won $1 million. That's the first one. That's the first one I remember. But I think it doesn't mean that.
But I think there's a difference between showing off you won a millionaire maker versus like every single night. Like, and I can't remember at the time whether he was showing like what he put in versus what he won, but there's just a lot of people they play like $200,000 worth of entries. Like, oh, I won 400K. It's like, okay.
Well, the best example of that is Vegas Dave. I was on his website the other day, literally guarantees 100-0 records. And I assume just betting the fattiest of home faves and like all spots, like minus 900 faves. But that's like his whole thing. And then he just shows the tickets and the records, and it's obviously completely manipulated.
Is he actually 100-0? Because even on like minus 9,000 favorites,
Sure.
like if you lost once, you would be out of money.
Sir, there's no way.
Yeah. What Vegas Dave does, it's literally Mahowny actually would have been someone who would have fallen for this if he was in like the 21st century. So what Vegas Dave does is he tries to cast his net as wide as he can, and then he bets both sides of every game and sends out one pick to one side, one pick to the other side. So he always has winning tickets. And obviously he himself is not betting very many of these games. He just is he's just making things up.
Well, I think that's the big secret of a lot of not only our industry, like in the daily fantasy and gambling space, but like all of that stuff is that the people that are buying this stuff and playing big money, like it's a pretty big rarity that you find people who are doing the plays and doing the picks and providing this content or the picks that are playing stakes as large as you're playing following the picks.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that most people left who are still doing DFS content are probably playing. They're probably not playing a ton, but they probably still play. I would say for sports betting, though, you're right. There are just not that many people who are laying down even $100 on every single pick or whatever.
And I mean, it's also pretty obvious there's very, very few people who are willing to, post their results night in and night out. People come out for the nights they win and you don't hear from them on the other nights.
Yeah, that's the Pat Mayo strategy, but people just know I lose every time, so why even keep track of it? Just down 200 units.
Pat, I feel like I've tried to emulate your strategy too, where it's just you don't position yourself as a sharp, and then you're just free rolling anytime you do hit.
That's 100% the move. Do not position yourself as a sharp. Do not position yourself as someone who is grinding out fucking NFL DFS cash games. Like, don't position yourself as someone who does that for sure.
I am not. I mean, Pete, you could probably get away with it because you have the acting chops. I don't have the acting chops to pretend I'm a sharp.
I mean, I do, but I don't have the heart to pretend that I'm a sharp.
But it's funny because when you have like different discussions with different content providers and what they're looking for in the gambling space, like some of them are really big bettors and they want to adhere to like, I want to show my results and do all of this stuff. But most people just want to bet a fucking $100 on a game. That's really all they want to do, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys have all thought about this a lot too, of just like how hard sports betting content is to do well, because it is so price sensitive. It's shopping around, lines move, one bet or a group of bettors can change the line. And yet then there's the entertainment aspect, which is obviously what I try to focus on. I think what we try to focus on, but man, sports betting, like compared to DFS, for doing good content on it that can kind of marry entertainment value with, good advice is almost impossible.
I think that's the lean that you have to go into it, especially with all these mainstream networks going to get into, especially sports betting. Like when you see stuff on ESPN and Fox and NBC about betting, like half the people they're putting on this have never placed a bet in their life, for one thing. So that's tough. It has to be entertaining, or like with a million, especially like, I always try to find it funny. Like someone tried to like pick a fight with me the other day over like, oh, you don't win anything in game. I was like, yeah, I know. I don't claim that I do, but I make more money with losing picks than you do with winning picks because you're unwatchable.
Well, these guys are ridiculous too. Like I had playing DFS this year. I had my biggest hit ever one week. I won $10,000. And then the next week I bricked hard and they go, how does this guy make DFS videos? He just got last place in a thing. Like people don't even understand like random variance and like sample sizes. And that's just like a whole other issue in itself.
Well, and Pat, you have such a good niche market because it really doesn't matter if you lose 4 months in a row at golf picks if you get one good one. If you get Nick Taylor 150-1 at Pebble Beach, you lose for the rest of the year. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, well,
you have binked.
You hit that one. Like, how long did that one win like keep your bankroll afloat?
I'm literally still. I mean, I have not spent all that money on my gambling account yet. I had a very good. So this is actually a true story. I have never ran out in sports betting money of the money I got from Danny Willett at the whenever that was, whenever you and Feinberg gave that one out. That was my OG deposit way back. I mean, that was 2015, right? And I have existed on that sports betting money ever since.
That was 2016. I had to take that money out to pay for my wedding. That's where that money went.
I'm sorry to hear it, buddy.
Wait,
but yeah, but Nick Taylor and had Zalatoris hit last week or I'm sorry when you're listening to this, it's in the future. Had Zalatoris hit, I would have gone pro in golf betting, I think.
Pat, what was the one note you gave Davis before this started?
It was don't date the show because it's not coming out today.
What this is actually something related to this movie and a term you hear bandied about a lot, where it's almost like in our circles a flattering term to say I'm a degenerate. You know, I like to gamble.
For sure, it's
whatever.
a compliment.
It's a compliment, but obviously in Mahowny's case, he was a true actual degenerate. How do you guys think about that term? Because it's almost like there's two versions of it. There's a degenerate that has bankroll management, and then there's the Mahowny level degenerate. It's almost like we need a different word.
We do need a different word for it because I still perceive it as having a negative connotation, but it almost goes back with social media as well, where if you see losses, they're not you rarely see like the huge losses. And like I said, there's probably people in our industry that have just gone broke and we don't even know about it. They could still be doing content, just not playing in the same sort of things. Like I don't play in enough of like the high stakes DraftKings things to see people be there for 5 weeks, then you never see them again. And then if you don't recognize the name, you wouldn't even know, that kind of thing. Or it could be, there's a friend of mine who can't download a sports betting app onto his phone. And he likes to sports bet. He's very fine at sports betting. But the moment he wins money at sports betting, it's over in the other part of the app to online slots, and then he has no money left. Like that's degen behavior to me.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's degen behavior. I will say, as it pertains to DFS, the high stakes DFS scene is as dry and dusty as it has ever been. The games are so tough and the margins are so thin. And so many people have come to the realization that battling for $10,000 in head-to-heads and 3-mans every single night is it's not GTO. And so then that has led to, Pete, the new thing now, the new sharp touting thing is to be like, well, we don't know what we don't know, man. We just play the leverage and the low owned options. And that is actually kind of good advice to some extent, but also on the other hand, it's a cop out. And so it's very hard to tell who's being genuine and whatnot.
Well, I think the distinction I would like to make with the term degen is I think a lot of people will be like, oh man, I bet on a Frisbee golf tournament and then playing Yahtzee with my buds. I'm such a degen. But to me, the distinction is if you are willing to bet on coin flips or less, like literally flip coins for money, not getting any positive expected value, that is degenerate gambling to me. But if you're just like, if you think you have a slight edge in something because you know how to play like Connect 4 better than someone else, you're not a degenerate for playing Connect 4. Like you're getting it in good.
We're subtweeting you, Peter Jennings. Peter Jennings, we hope you. We hope you're listening to this, Mr. Connect 4.
I flipped coins for money before.
I've done that too.
That's degenerate, right?
I demanded some action. Like there was nothing going on. You know what? I actually think that betting on the coin flip at the Super Bowl is a far greater degenerate bet than actually flipping a coin for money. At least you have a 50-50 proposition with flipping a coin. You're not paying the vig on a coin flip.
You also get a lot of sweat equity entertainment value. You probably place that bet a week before. There's probably people talking about it. You get your popcorn and your beer ready for the Super Bowl and you're waiting for that. Like there's a lot more entertainment than if we're just like at a bar flipping 100 coins, for whatever.
I suppose that is probably the case because most like anyone who would be the type of person to bet on coin flips with one other person, probably not the people who are concerned about the 3 cents of vig on a Super Bowl coin flip.
Right.
That's also true. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the movie. Did you buy this? Was it weird to see Minnie Driver in this movie for some reason?
That was another thing I wanted to talk about. Just did not buy for 1 second that she would be into him, that she would stay with him. Like, just not. I don't buy it, man. If I was picturing myself as like actually a sicko gambler who had no money and disappeared for entire weekends, there's not a woman on earth who would stay with me.
I don't know. She was a bank teller in the early 80s in Toronto. Strangely enough, it actually mirrors my grandparents' relationship. My grandma was a bank teller in Montreal during like, I don't know, I guess the early mid 50s, early 60s. And my grandfather's a pilot, so he would just be gone all of the time. But that's how they met. She stopped working at the bank and they went off and lived kind of happily ever after, I suppose.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Philip Seymour Hoffman is not Matt Damon. You know, like I don't think she's putting up with that kind of bullshit for Philip Seymour Hoffman level looks. Like
Could not agree more. Yeah.
Like him, like, you know, in the shower when she comes and talk to him, like, hey, why did you, you know, stand me up for that whole evening on this trip? It's like, that lady would not put up with that from him.
Well, maybe she saw one of those scenes with him in his boxer briefs or just his tighty whities, and he was just like irresistible.
Yeah, I know that scene was actually heartbreaking because when he invited her to go on the trip, because it actually felt like a pro level move of like, all right, I've been a DGen. I want to like make it up to you. Let's go do something. And then to know he had his ulterior motives and then to just stiff her like that when they got there was absolutely brutal.
I didn't abandon my wife on our honeymoon, but we were in Morocco, staying at a resort. It was the final leg of our second to final leg, because we were flying from Morocco to Portugal. We were there for a night, then we flew back home. And there was a casino at the resort. And I had just been kind of eyeing it the entire time. I was like, I want to go here. I don't know when I'm going to have the chance. Then my wife like drinks the water at the resort in Morocco and like starts getting sick from it. I was like, what are you doing?
Oh,
she's
no,
like,
can't do that.
She's like, well, no one told me that you couldn't drink the water. I was like, why do you think they put like 24 bottled waters in our room? Like, well, what are you doing here? So she ended up like, somewhat getting sick and going to bed early. Then I went to the casino that night. And, I didn't realize what the conversion rate of the money was. And I ended up winning like $3,500 when I thought I won $300. So
wow,
I was making these giant bets and not knowing it. And everything just kind of worked out in my favor.
I had a similar experience to that. I went to a casino in the Dominican Republic when I was visiting some friends there, and I was all off on like the denominations. And you talk like when you play a poker tournament, you're like, you need to view the chips as just chips, ammo to win this tournament. Like they aren't associated with the value of what you paid for them. That's how you feel in a foreign currency at a casino. You're like, no, these are just chips. I have no idea how much money this is anymore.
It's funny you say that because the people always live under the impression like the reason that they give you chips and that you don't bet with cash on the table is that you just don't make the connection to money in your mind when you see them. But I think that's why I differentiate between being somewhere live with chips in front of me, because I can't do that. When I have chips in front of me, like they have no value to me whatsoever. Despite what they say on them, they are chips that I put onto the table. I don't equate that with currency in my mind. But when I log on to a gambling app, like go bet on sports, it has my total on the bottom. It's like, okay, I know how much I can bet here. I don't feel like you get that same experience, hence why you have chips.
Yeah, that's right. That's why. What was the poker site we were playing on, Davis? Global Poker, where they're like technically coins, and then you have to toggle the conversion yourself.
I never got my money off of there. No, Pete, it's not still on there. It's gone. If you leave your stuff in there for 90 days, it's gone. They can take it.
I need to log back in because I actually got an email from them where they told me that I needed to my prize redemption was denied because I need to meet a threshold of I need to pay someone to play on global poker for me, which is sorry to turn this into an ad for global poker, Pat.
It's okay.
No, it's not a very convincing advertisement.
Yeah, if you don't play for 90 days, your money is gone. And even if you put money in, you might not get it back anyway.
Well, let's see if this is true. Let's see if yeah, no, my money is gone, Pete. It's gone.
Okay, I'm logging in right now. I'm gonna be so pissed.
This is an amazing business model. If someone forgets your website exists, you legally get to just take their money.
Mine's still in here.
I have 0 sweeps coins.
How is the quality of the poker experience on this site? Was like an 8-bit early 90s video game? Like they just put no money into it?
No, it was fine, I think.
This was back, it was like the first month of quarantine, and Roto Grinders hosted like the big poker tournament. And it was like back, we're like, oh, we're all shut in our homes for the indefinite future. Let's all do a poker tournament together that we were all jazzed about, not realizing we'd never be able to get our money back.
Well, at least you guys got to leave your house. I just got a alert on my phone saying that the
Doug Ford.
The stay-at-home order to a total of 6 more weeks and interprovincial travel is limited after. Oh, I hope that doesn't fuck me in terms of trying to get out of this province and move.
I told you.
Goodness.
I thought we told you not to date the show, Pat.
Yeah, well, it's gonna come out within 6 weeks of recording this. Put it that way.
Goodness, I am. That sounds brutal.
Yeah, it's not a great scene up here, despite the fact that I think our numbers are way less. Anyway,
Yeah,
let's not turn it into that. What was I gonna say?
Yeah, that's a different show.
Yeah,
Philip Seymour Hoffman, tour de force performance.
it really is a good performance. It's one of the best performances in a gambling movie. Well, he's just so good in everything, but like obviously he was a real life addict, so he probably kind of put some of that personal experience into this because you really felt it, and you don't feel. It always seems so fake and forced in a lot of movies, guys that have gambling problems, but he really felt like a guy who had a gambling problem.
I couldn't agree more. I knew he was acting incredibly well when I could feel the anxiety for him. All those situations he put himself in, I got a knot in my stomach imagining if that was me. Like I just couldn't imagine the weight of that hanging over me.
Yeah, it's a bit different when it's Philip Seymour Hoffman and he's projecting it rather than like Mark Wahlberg in the Gambler remake.
Right. Yeah. I mean, comparing Mark Wahlberg and Philip Seymour Hoffman as, believable actors, he Seymour Hoffman is like the best at that. So yeah, I was very happy to have you guys put this movie on my radar because it is one of his, I now after seeing it, I think it's up there with some of his top performances.
Yeah. The problem with it is that it's funny because the movie cost $10 million to make, which was, I think, exactly the same amount of money that the real guy stole embezzled from the bank to go bet in Atlantic City. I enjoyed like the backdoor channel. I want to know more about that. The backdoor channel that Atlantic City and Vegas used. So people in Canada could put their funds into an account that it wouldn't be traceable between the two places. I enjoyed that. I want to see more of that.
I mean, that's just got to be total myth making. Like there's got to be no way that's even close to real.
I highly disagree.
You think that Vegas and Atlantic... Well, so what is a bummer now is that this is just also corporate. Like, it would just be the same mega casino that owns both properties, and they wouldn't care who's making money where.
No, that's true. But I'm just thinking of like, because it's hard to get money. Like, remember, what was it, the scene where... that was one part I was actually confused by. When he got the ride with the guy to go to the casino, did he get robbed on the way? Did he actually get robbed?
Oh, yeah, that is confusing. I think no. I think he did not actually get robbed. I think it was like a misunderstanding and he thought he was going to get robbed, but the guy just wanted to drive him, I think.
Yeah, Pete, did you have any idea what happened there?
Yeah, I was confused by that too, but I don't think he got robbed.
But just when he's pulling like the rolls of $10,000 out of like everywhere on him, like trying to get the money from Canada into the U.S. without declaring it so you can go gamble it at a casino is a real problem.
Yeah. And then where else? Yeah, he was sweating bullets getting on the plane there too.
Yeah, so they ended up sending him like the private jet where the stewardess mocked him.
Yeah. I mean, this is why he needed Bitcoin, right? So he could just remember his seed phrase and, cross the borders in a very frictionless way.
We brought it all around.
I don't know if Caesars is going to be do casinos take Bitcoin yet?
I don't know, but talk about, they have the Bitcoin pizza story of the guy who paid, the generational wealth for a pizza. Imagine going back to your gambling losses and being
I have, and it is absolutely disgusting. It's just, and I can't, like, that is my biggest degen gross story for sure.
Yeah, but that's not even so bad because most of the people I know that had like Bitcoin and have had it for a while only have it because gambling was illegal where they were at online. They had to go to some dodgy offshore. And the only way that you couldn't trace it was to get it in Bitcoin. So then 5 years later, they forgot they had Bitcoin in this weird gambling account. And oh, I have 3 Bitcoin. This is great.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, that was similar for me. I got familiar with it from putting money on offshore betting accounts. And that's
how everyone knows. Yeah.
But yeah, it is now. It is funny how it's changed too, because that was also back then when they're like, oh, it's just gonna be a currency. We're all gonna exchange it. Like it was more normalized to just send Bitcoin around then. Whereas now it's like, it's digital gold. Never give it up.
Never give it up. Never sell. Diamond hands.
Buy Bitcoin, not a house, Davis.
Oh man, Pierre Rochard owned me, and he owned me good. And boy, was he right, because buying a house is for the birds, man. Yeah, it's for the birds.
Hey, you're gonna be happy you have your own house.
You are.
I'm not gonna be happy with how much money all of this is costing me.
No, but at the end, you're like, oh, okay, I own this. And it's not even so much of like what the property is worth. It's just the actual ownership that you can do whatever the fuck you want to it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. we'll really see. I'm a man who enjoys his disposable income, Pat. You should know this about me.
Oh, you don't have kids. You're like Lindsay Nagel. Your wallet overflows with disposable income.
I love the Lindsay Nagel reference so much, man. I really hope people get it. I have a feeling that is lost on too many people.
Oh, that's
Davis.
sad.
I also want to hear about your big return to Instagram. 3-year hiatus. I log in yesterday, and you're like kick flipping over a traffic cone on Instagram.
Well, all the youths at the skate park I go to. So as part of this weight loss bet, I started skateboarding again because it's incredible cardio. You can get like 800 kcals burned in like 45 minutes. And all the youths at the skate park I go to, they're all on Instagram. Like, they don't ask you for your number. They're like, "Hey, bro, what's your Instagram?" So I re-downloaded it, and I was like, I'm getting the moves back. I'm feeling the vibe a little bit, and I was just like, yeah, we're coming back to Instagram. I got the old man game going again.
I love it.
You burn that many calories skateboarding? You're just standing.
No, dude, it's because really it's a combination of sprinting and box jumps. Really, when you're doing it, it's pretty good.
I feel like that's you selling yourself on it being more productive than it is.
Yeah, the lady doth protest a little too much about the exercise benefits of.
I got it on my watch, dude. I got it on my watch. The watch can't lie. It's literally incapable.
There's a funny distinction that they make in this, and they kind of do it a few times. They kind of do it with Minnie Driver when she's stealing all like the little toiletries from the Vegas hotel room, just like dumping them into her purse. Very Cuss-esque. Once again, a lot of cuss stuff in this, just with weird degen behavior for a guy who's not a degen. He does it anyway. But when he was trying to get the bag that he needed to put the cash in, and the lady was telling him it was going to be $5, and it just, in his mind, $5 was way too much for this bag that he was going to put like 5 million into.
Yep.
And I thought that was just a very good characterization of someone who is a degenerate gambler. They're not a degenerate spender. They just want to gamble the money. They're actually probably pretty thrifty with the rest of their life.
My girlfriend will get so mad at me about things like this in real life, like refusing to make like literally like $5 purchases, or like buying like nicer, I don't know, shampoo and conditioner, or like toothpaste or something. Like, I'm not spending extra on this, but I'll, obviously I'm comfortable gambling, much more money than those upgrades would be.
And they went out of their way early in the movie to drive that home for Mahowny, where there was someone's like, "Oh, you just got the promotion. You're going to get a new car." And he's like, "Hey, it still runs." And then he goes, he sees Minnie Driver at the desk, and, take her out she wants to go out for a really nice dinner. He's like, hey, let's, pump the brakes on that. Like, they were already quickly establishing him as a nit in life and wanted to save every possible dollar solely for gambling.
Yeah, it was even her.
I read that was true, that was based off of what he would do. The guy, Brian Maloney, I think is his name. I read that he would tip 7% at restaurants in Toronto.
Jeez.
What a hero. 7%. Good God.
Yeah. That's brutal.
And it's funny. I mean, I don't know what the rate of inflation has been, but they said that even after his promotion, the casino boss said it when they did the digging on him, that he only made $22,000 Canadian a year.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, because it took place, was it early 80s?
Yeah, like 1980, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, inflation, but still, yeah. I mean, to end up embezzling $10 million when you were making $20,000 a year is insane.
He is also the first downtown Toronto banker that I've ever heard of who doesn't have a massive cocaine problem as well. Didn't do drugs.
Yeah. He had no vices. They even tried to send him the stripper or the hooker to his room, and he couldn't. He said he only had an eye for Lady Luck.
That's true. There was also that weird bowling scene with her family that I don't exactly know why it was in the movie, but
I thought that was funny.
It was funny, but it has no purpose in the movie, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the purpose of the movie is just to illustrate that he is so far removed from anything. He can't even really pretend to care for his in-laws anymore. Like it's completely removed from him. Like all he focuses on is embezzling the money and then losing that money. That's all that there is for him.
I actually thought one of the more relatable scenes was the double date dinner party scene where, where they're playing cards and he's just completely fixated on the game, because I've definitely been there, whether it's, sweating your DFS lineups or something, and you're out to dinner, supposed to be socializing, and you just can't stop.
Yeah. Who cares?
Your action.
Yeah.
It's so relatable.
I guess now it's just people checking their phones at tables if there's no TVs in the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
what kind of savage restaurant doesn't have TVs though?
Davis is actually the most guilty one of this of all. He's the ultimate multitasker. I'm sure he sent like 4 emails during this show.
Pat doesn't know because we haven't hung out for real yet, but because we spent a weekend together. Like it's actually like it's a problem. Like it makes me less enjoyable to be around.
Yeah, Pat, when I was hanging out with Davis in New York, we went out to dinner and my phone was almost dead. And I gave it to like the bartender. I was like, hey, do you mind, plugging this in back there? And Davis was like in awe that I would be willing to go the whole dinner without my phone.
Was that the trip that you wore those sneakers, Davis?
Yeah, the infamous sneakers from
I have them on. Photo. I have them on right now.
Let's see.
Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself.
Oh,
Davis.
No. Oh, Davis.
These are my around the house shoes.
You can't get them cleaned?
Why would I?
I
don't want to. These are that's kind of like the aesthetic of these shoes. They're kind of supposed to meant to be worn that way.
But if you're
they come like beat up.
But you're wearing them around. They're like the jeans that you buy with the holes in them?
Yeah, basically.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
But how are they your around the house shoes if you've been wearing them, if you wore them through New York City?
They're the most comfortable pair of shoes I've ever worn in my life. Like not even close.
They don't seem very clean.
Why do you wear shoes? I'm like a slipper flip-flop guy in the house. You're wearing full-on tennis shoes inside?
I got 2 dogs, bro. There's hair everywhere. Unless you want hair clumped to the bottom of your socks, you got to wear shoes.
Does your new place have hardwood then, or laminate at least?
Yeah, we got hardwood, but understand I have a German short hair pointer and a Saint Bernard. Like I could have 2 vacuums running all day. It's not going to get all the hair.
Does your Saint Bernard weigh more than you do?
No, but it's pretty close these days. If we were wrestling, if we were like high school wrestlers, we'd be close to the same weight bracket.
What is it? Saint Bernard, like 120?
Oh, she's big, dude. She's like 145.
Wow.
Yeah, she's big old gal.
All right. Any final thoughts on Owning Mahowny? Probably not a movie you want to watch twice, I'm guessing.
No, it's a depressing film.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because you think about like Rounders, one of the better gambling movies, entirely rewatchable because it has this positive kind of arc, the more like hero's journey type of thing. And this is just like a slow descent into your life unraveling. It's definitely a movie I enjoy, but I can't envision myself rewatching.
So that's it for the Gambling Movie Club. Number 1, Owning Mahowny. I actually have a movie picked for number 2 just because I haven't seen it in like maybe 20 years. I probably saw it as a teenager. I rented it from Blockbuster. Have you guys ever seen California Split?
No.
1974 Robert Altman movie.
No, but
should I know who Robert Altman is?
If you like movies, you should.
I like movies.
Do you?
I'm not like a movie buff, but like I like movies.
I would say that Robert Altman is one of the 20 most notable directors since
Altman
since 1960. He directed.
Oh, I know who this is.
I
know who this is.
I mean, he's dead now, but I think the last thing he did was Prairie Home Companion. But he did like The Player, Shortcuts. He did MASH, Nashville.
Yeah,
just giant ensemble movies. Very distinct feel to his movies. But in California Split, it's Elliot Gould and George Siegel are the 2 main characters.
This looks this looks good.
Yeah, I'm in.
So I think that's so. If you want to tune into episode 2 of Gambling Movie Club, California Split will be the next one. If you had to rate this movie at a 10, Davis, what would you rate it?
I give it a good 8, mostly based off the strength of the performance of Philip Seymour Hoffman and the Pit Boss. I think those are. I could have just watched those 2 guys just go through the motions of what they were doing for 4 hours, probably.
I think 8's pretty
Yeah.
good, Pete.
Yeah, I was gonna say like similar to Davis, 7 for the movie, 9.5 for Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance.
I'm trying to find John Hurt. Did John Hurt win an Oscar, or is that William Hurt who won the Oscar? No. John Hurt was nominated for The Elephant Man and then in Midnight Express. Oh, he won Best Actor in a Supporting Role at the Golden Globes in 1979 for Midnight Express. Midnight Express is an excellent movie, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, that will do it. Pete, shill your stuff.
Yeah, man. I'm on the Twitters. I got my YouTube going, bouncing around, lots of NFT Top Shot stuff. Excited to get back in the NFL best ball streets here very shortly after the NFL draft. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Davis Mattek, at Davis Mattek on Twitter, host of the Takecast. What you got going on?
Yeah, listen to the Takecast, listen to the Sports Grid Fantasy Football Podcast, and just if you follow me on Twitter, you'll get all the stuff there. And I actually have a very cool Takecast guest that people will have seen by this point, so I hope people enjoy a little bit different of an episode that's coming out soon.
You don't want to say the name, do you? Because he might still pull out.
We just don't have it. He's doing the show for sure, but we don't have a day locked down yet.
But the show will be already out by the time that people see this. You might as well say who it is.
Put your feet to the fire, Davis.
Walker Ryan, professional skateboarder. He just wrote a novel. He's like a dude I remember being super into when I was like in high school and wanting to be a professional skateboarder. So it's like when I have poker players on the show and I get to be like a fanboy to them. It'll be a very similar experience. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
I think you mean
Nice,
I think you mean Tony Hawk. That's the guy who skateboards, right?
I would love to. If anyone has an in with Tony Hawk, you slide in my DMs and we'll figure something out, because I would love to have Tony on the show.
I thought when you said Walker, I thought you were actually going to say Walker, Texas Ranger Chuck Norris.
Imagine.
Can you imagine Davis doing a show?
I have never interfaced with a Chuck Norris product for 1 second. I know what he is, but I don't get why.
Oh my goodness.
All right. That'll do it on the show. Download the podcast, rate and review, smash the like button of the episode. Give me some suggestions. Actually, don't, because I don't really care what your suggestions are. I'm going to pick the movies for the movie club. Don't really care what anyone says. We're doing California Split. Just go watch that. That's the homework assignment. If you want to hear us talk about a movie and then weird auxiliary stories that kind of go around said movie is, I guess, the format of this show. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the Mayo Media Network, and I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!